The sky burned a dull orange over the eastern seaboard, not with sunrise, but with the distant glow of alien cruisers. Ships larger than cities drifted across the horizon, their metal surfaces humming with a resonance that made the bones ache. Below, Earth's most advanced military installations, scrambled jets and missiles. But the humans on the ground knew instinctively what their eyes had already told them. Technology alone would not save them. Nathan Cross stood in the cavernous lab that had once been a research facility, now a fortified command center. He was tall, wiry, and perpetually stained with grease or scorched circuits, the telltale signs of a man who built more than he repaired. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the kinetic energy of thoughts racing faster than any machinery he could conceive. He was humanity's engineer, their last hope for improvisation in a war that shouldn't have been winnable. And yet he refused to accept the impossible. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, voice tense over the intercom. "The alien scouts are scanning the city." There, Nathan cut him off. "Stop talking and watch. Don't tell me what they're doing, see it. Understand it. That is how we survive. That is how we will fight." He moved to the window, eyes tracing the outlines of the alien vessels. They didn't orbit, they loomed. They didn't hover, they suffocated the air. Each ship was a complex lattice of impossible geometry, pulsating with a light that defied physics as humans knew it. And yet Nathan did not flinch. He inhaled, filling his lungs with a scent of ozone and scorched concrete. He let himself feel the panic, not to succumb, but to channel it. "This is our world," he whispered, "and they're about to find out why we're not as primitive as they think." The first contact had been catastrophic. Satellites disabled. Communication grids fried. Cities irradiated with beams that melted steel like candle wax. The aliens, confident in their superiority, had called humans soft, laughable, irrelevant. They mocked every primitive aircraft, every crude missile, every jury-rigged defense system. But Nathan had been waiting. Not for reinforcements, not for a miracle, but for a moment, when humanity's audacity could become its weapon. He glanced at the console. It displayed the schematics of a building that had once been a tech hub, now a skeleton of exposed rebar and burning panels. But Nathan didn't see ruins. He saw opportunity. He saw scrap that could be reshaped, circuits that could be hacked, engines that could be repurposed. Every piece of human debris was potential, every discarded device a tool. And the aliens had overlooked one fundamental flaw in their assumption: humans never stopped creating, never stopped adapting, even in the face of certain death. A young technician approached him, pale, sweat-streaked, carrying a half-assembled electromagnetic pulse launcher. "Sir, if we fire this now?" Nathan stopped her with a raised hand. "Not yet. Timing is everything. Wait for the pulse. Wait for the alignment. And when it hits, the entire swarm will see what we do with primitive tech." The technician's eyes widened. "You really think I know?" Nathan said. "We've built the impossible before breakfast. Today, we'll build survival." Outside, the first wave of alien drones descended. They were sleek, predatory, darting with a fluidity that made human pilots nauseous just to watch. Nathan didn't flinch. He didn't duck. He activated the improvised sensor array, a jumbled lattice of repurposed satellites, solar panels, and hacked AI cores. The screen flickered with data streams that no human should have been able to interpret in real time. And yet Nathan could see the pattern. Every drone had a vulnerability. Every formation had a flaw. He pressed a sequence on the console. Sparks flew, circuits hummed, and a low-frequency pulse radiated outward. On the screen, drones faltered, some plummeting to the ground, others spinning into each other as if confused by an invisible hand. Nathan's mouth twisted in a grim smile. "They think they understand physics," he muttered. "They've forgotten that creativity always bends the rules." A voice behind him, trembling. "Sir, they're sending the frigates." Hundreds of them. Nathan turned, eyes blazing. "Then we give them a new problem, one they can't calculate. Humanity doesn't surrender to probability." The city became a battlefield of improvisation. towers once meant for communication became missile launch points. Cars rigged with explosives were detonated at precise intervals to disrupt alien formations. Nathan and his team hacked drones mid-flight, turning them into missiles aimed at the alien fleet. The sound was deafening. Explosions, the wail of collapsing metal, the shriek of systems overloaded. Amid the chaos, Nathan worked calmly, methodically, translating panic into invention, and then something extraordinary happened. One of the alien cruisers faltered not from brute force, but from cleverness. A hacked command module, fed false signals by Nathan's jury-rigged network, forced the ship to target its own fleet. Explosions cascaded like dominoes. Alien soldiers tumbled in zero gravity as their control systems betrayed them. It was not strength, not firepower, but ingenuity. Human ingenuity. The aliens had mocked it. And now they were paying. Nathan allowed himself a brief glance upward. The largest cruiser hung like a monolith over the city, blinking, scanning. Its light swept across the battlefield, but Nathan's heart did not falter. He had one last move, a device cobbled together from scavenged components that should not have worked, but it did. A pulse generator aimed at the ship's core systems. He activated it. The cruiser's glow stuttered. Its hull groaned. And then, like a candle in a hurricane, it extinguished. Spinning into the atmosphere in a cascade of fire and metal, the city fell silent for a heartbeat. Nathan inhaled, the adrenaline still hammering through him. And then cheers erupted, faintly at first, then louder. Humans survived. Humans adapted. Humans fought back with the very chaos the aliens had dismissed. In the aftermath, Nathan surveyed the wreckage. Around him, men and women, engineers, soldiers, civilians worked tirelessly to stabilize the city, to tend the wounded, to salvage what they could. A young soldier approached, his uniform torn, face smeared with ash. "Sir?" They're retreating." Nathan's lips curved into a faint smile, fatigue pressing against his bones. "Good," he said, "but don't think it's over. They'll remember today, and when they do, they'll know the truth about humans." The soldier frowned. "What truth, sir?" Nathan looked at the horizon, at the smoke and fire, at the twisted metal that had once been a symbol of human fragility. That we're not soft. That we're not primitive. That we invent defiance before fire, and that we don't stop. Ever. Somewhere, an alien drone limped into view, damaged, flickering, scanning the city, its sensors fixed on Nathan. And for a brief, impossible moment, Nathan felt that it understood something fundamental. Humans could not be predicted. Humans could not be broken. Humans could not be contained. He turned away from the window. There were circuits to repair, devices to reassemble, lives to save. But he knew, deep in his chest, that today had changed something. Not just the aliens' understanding of Earth, but the humans' understanding of themselves. And as the smoke rose into the crimson sky, Nathan whispered, almost to himself, "Not luck. Someone wanted us to survive." The sound of the city below was chaotic, terrified, and alive. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the aliens began to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the soft, primitive species called humanity. And as the first pulse of human defiance spread across the planet, Nathan felt the stirrings of a war that would not be won by weapons alone, but by every spark of creativity, courage, and unyielding will dot. The morning after the first victory was a fragile thing. Smoke still twisted from toppled towers. Sirens wailed in the distance. And the smell of burning metal lingered like a stubborn memory. Nathan Cross walked among the survivors, moving deliberately, his hands still streaked with ash and oil. Every step reminded him that ingenuity had carried them this far, but ingenuity alone would not be enough to win the war. The alien vessels were retreating, but Nathan knew better than to celebrate. Their retreat was tactical, a recalibration, not surrender. And the humans who survived the initial strikes bore their own scars. Fear was etched into their faces, but so was determination. The first moments of panic had given way to a quiet resolve, the sort of resolve that could fuel a species against the impossible. Nathan paused at a makeshift command station, where engineers were hunched over scavenged computers, rerouting power, repurposing damaged drones, and building new tools from scraps. "We can't just patch what's broken," Nathan said, voice low but urgent. "We have to turn their assumptions against them. They think we're primitive. Let's make them pay for that mistake." One young technician, barely out of his teens, looked up. "Sir, are you saying we should attack again?" Nathan shook his head. "Not attack. Innovate. Every tool they've given us to survive, every broken piece of tech, every drone, every hull fragment they left for us to use, will weaponize their arrogance." In a nearby plaza, civilians gathered to salvage whatever they could. Nathan observed them, noting the improvisation even among untrained hands. People lifted overturned cars, reinforced makeshift barricades with metal beams, and converted everyday machinery into rudimentary weapons. One man, trembling but determined, had wired a delivery drone with explosives and sent it toward a hovering alien scout. Nathan watched it soar, knew it would work, and felt the familiar rush of exhilaration that came with turning impossible odds into advantage. "The aliens don't understand human persistence," Nathan muttered. "They see technology as a measure of strength, but they've never measured creativity, empathy, or sheer willpower." "That's our battlefield." A low hum vibrated through the ground, a signal from one of the alien frigates returning to the atmosphere. Its presence was massive, oppressive, but Nathan didn't flinch. He had anticipated this. He turned to his team. "Everyone, focus. They're recalibrating. This is when we strike not with bombs, but with code." Nathan returned to the command center, where a console displayed the network of alien communications captured during the initial engagement. He traced the data streams, fingers dancing across the interface. Every motion precise yet fluid, a choreography honed from countless nights spent building, repairing, and improvising. "Here's the pattern," he said, pointing at the lines of code. "Every drone, every ship, they all communicate through predictable loops. Their systems are rigid, perfect for manipulation." The team worked tirelessly, modifying signals, creating counter-instructions, and injecting false commands. Drones began to falter in the sky, colliding mid-flight. Alien scouts misjudged trajectories, forced to dodge obstacles humans had created in mere minutes. Nathan watched it unfold. Sweat streaked his face, lungs burning, but his mind remained sharp. This was not chaos, it was calculated defiance. Every action, every improvisation, was a statement. Humanity, soft or primitive, was capable of bending the rules of physics and perception simultaneously. Hours passed. The alien frigates circled higher, adjusting their patterns. Nathan felt the weight of every life depending on his calculations. He imagined the city below, the civilians scavenging, the engineers improvising, and he felt an almost divine precision in their collective resilience. It was as though some quiet intelligence had aligned all these desperate efforts, guiding them toward survival. A sudden alert broke his focus. One of the massive cruisers emitted a distress signal of vulnerability in its systems caused by Nathan's improvisations. The ship's own drones had turned against it, their hacking altering targeting protocols. Nathan's heart raced. Now he commanded, "Send the pulse through the network." Energy hummed through every wire, every salvaged circuit. Screens flashed with cascading failures. Alien drones faltered, spiraled, and crashed into the city below. The cruiser shuddered, lights flickering as automated defenses misfired. Nathan's team held their breath, then erupted into controlled cheers as the ship stumbled, smoke trailing from its core systems. "Good," Nathan muttered, "but we're not done." As the day stretched into evening, Nathan moved through the streets, inspecting barricades, checking improvised weapons, and encouraging civilians. He observed a man clutching a small child, eyes wide with fear. The child pointed toward the horizon. "Sir, the sky. It's moving again." Nathan knelt beside them. "They're still there," he explained. "But you, this city, these people, you've done what the invaders didn't expect. You've survived. And you'll keep surviving. The man's hand tightened around Nathan's. Sir, why are you here? Why are you risking yourself? Nathan looked toward the sky. The alien ships now fewer, retreating but still formidable. Because someone has to. Because survival is not luck. It's will. It's ingenuity. It's refusing to stop when the universe expects you to fail. Night fell. Fires burned in the distance, illuminating twisted metal and shattered streets. Nathan's team gathered in the command center, exhausted but alive. Reports came in of alien ships fleeing the atmosphere, their systems compromised, their arrogance shattered. Humans had turned the very instruments of invasion into tools of defiance. Nathan allowed himself a brief smile. They called us primitive, he said quietly. And look at us. We've made the impossible our shield, our weapon, our voice. One of the engineers spoke, hesitant. Sir, the others. Survivors across the world. Will they be able to replicate this? Nathan's gaze hardened, unwavering. They will. Because humanity doesn't follow instructions. We adapt. We create. And we fight, Evan, when the odds are death itself. Somewhere above, a damaged alien drone hovered, scanning the city. It seemed almost hesitant. Nathan felt a flicker of understanding pass between species, a realization that humans, the primitive species, were capable of defiance that exceeded expectation. And for the first time in weeks, Nathan allowed himself a moment of faith. Not in technology, not in weapons, but in the quiet, unseen force that had guided every improvised invention, every moment of courage, every small miracle of survival. Not luck, he whispered. Someone wanted us to live. The city below pulsed with life, chaotic and determined. Proof that humanity's ingenuity was not just survival, it was defiance. And somewhere in the distance, the aliens realized that the species they had dismissed as primitive could not be underestimated. Nathan turned back to his team, eyes blazing. Prepare for the next wave. We're not just defending a city. We're defending the idea that humans never stop, never surrender, and never accept impossibility. They'll remember today. And they'll know, soft or primitive, we are unstoppable. The hum of the damaged alien vessels faded into the night, carrying with it a warning, unspoken but unmistakable. Humans could be defeated, but they could not be broken. And as the fires reflected in Nathan's eyes, he whispered to himself, almost reverently, we will show them what primitive can do. Somewhere in the shattered streets, the humans began to build not just weapons, but hope in the aliens began to question everything they thought they knew about. Earth's defenders. The alien command network had never been designed to fail. Its calculations were precise, its responses instantaneous, its hierarchy unchallenged. Yet now, for the first time in millennia, an unanticipated variable disrupted the system. Humans. Prime observer. Jardik leaned over the tactical display aboard the flagship. Livian's maw. Scaled hands traced the paths of drones spinning uncontrollably. Missiles fired back toward their own vessels. And communications that should have been sealed, leaking signals Nathan Cross and his team had hijacked? How is this possible? Jardik hissed. His segmented eyes glimmered with disbelief. Every protocol accounted for their primitive technology. Every parameter no human should be capable of, a junior officer, trembling, interjected. Sir, they are. Improvising. Altering our own signals. Using debris, converting the very environment into weapons. Jardika's tail flicked sharply. Impossible. Humans cannot calculate at this scale. Their technology is inferior. Their minds, they are unpredictable, the officer finished. Oh! Voice, barely a whisper. Jardik froze, realizing the truth. The humans were not limited by protocol, by probability, by design. They were governed by something alien to the Detrian hierarchy: creativity, adaptability, and the relentless will to survive. Back on Earth, Nathan crouched over a partially destroyed bus rigged with makeshift launchers. Smoke curled from the front grille, Wires snaked like veins across the asphalt. And yet in this chaos, he saw clarity. Every human in the vicinity was improvising, building or defending, their fear transmuted into action. A small group of civilians, including children and unarmed adults, had barricaded an intersection, rigging overturned cars with electronics scavenged from streetlights. Nathan's eyes widened, not with worry, but with awe. "They're learning fast," he muttered. "And that learning, that's the edge." A young soldier approached, panting. "Sir, reports from the Northern District. Alien pods are retreating, but the civilians have organized a counterattack. They're repurposing their environment. Streetlights, cars, rooftops. They're turning everything into a trap." Nathan allowed himself a short smile. "Exactly what I hoped. Human ingenuity is not a military asset. Alone, it is instinct. That is why they underestimate us at their peril." Jardic's thoughts churned in disbelief. The aliens' offensive had relied on intimidation, on superior firepower, and predictive algorithms. And yet, the humans had done what no simulation had accounted for. They had weaponized desperation. "They are alive in every sense," Jardic murmured to himself. "Not just biologically, but in will, in cunning, in defiance." A volley of missiles exploded near the flagship's hull, shockwaves reverberating through the corridors. Jardic staggered, his segmented limbs pressing against the console to stabilize. Their survival instinct. It fuels them. Even when fatally wounded, they fight. Even when trapped, they resist. This is madness. But humans had a method to their madness. Nathan's team had created a chain reaction. Hacked drones feeding false signals into alien frigates. Makeshift EMP devices disrupting engines. And civilians converting ordinary vehicles into guided projectiles. Every time the aliens adapted, the humans adapted faster. And every adaptation carried the emotional weight of survival, not just strategy. Nathan's mind raced. He could feel the fatigue gnawing at his muscles, the burn in his lungs, the ache in his hands. And yet, he was more alert than ever. Every human casualty, every failed attempt, was data. Every narrow escape was a lesson. He gestured to a pile of scrap metal and electronics. "Build a network. Tie it to the city grid. I want every street light, every traffic signal, every surveillance drone feeding into our pulse array. If they target one building, they trigger 50 more defenses. If they try to flee, the city becomes a maze of traps. They will not anticipate us. They will only react." The team worked. Exhaustion etched on every face, but their hands were steady. Their minds were sharper than any machine aboard the alien vessels. And in that moment, Nathan realized the unspoken truth. Humans didn't need perfection. They needed resilience. And resilience, when combined with creativity, became unstoppable. High above, alien sensors struggled to parse the chaos. Jardic watched as a transport pod hijacked mid-flight by Nathan's team collided with a cruiser's hull, disabling its main engines. Another pod detonated near a command node, severing communications between vessels. "They fight beyond death," Jardic said, voice trembling. "Even mortally wounded. They refuse to yield. Every human is a weapon of persistence." How? How can a species survive this way? The answer was simple. Humans were soft in body, perhaps, but their minds were iron. Their hearts burned with empathy, defiance, and ingenuity. They were fragile yet unbreakable, chaotic yet precise, fallible yet fearless. Every calculation, every algorithm, every brute force weapon the aliens had relied upon failed to account for the depth of human will. In the streets, Nathan paused to catch his breath. Flames licked the edges of a collapsed building, the scent of molten metal and burning plastic thick in the air. A small group of survivors emerged from the shadows, carrying what remained of a disabled drone. We thought we were finished," one said, voice cracking. "But you made it possible to fight back," Nathan nodded. "No, you made it possible. I only showed what's always inside you. Every human here, every one of you decides to defy, even when the odds are death. That is our advantage. That is our victory," the survivors nodded. understanding instinctively what Nathan could not fully articulate. Survival was not the absence of fear, it was the mastery of it. Tsar. Tech retreated to his private chamber aboard the flagship, observing the humans with an intensity bordering on obsession. Their survival is not algorithmic, he murmured. They adapt, they feel. They anticipate not probability, but consequence. They act with purpose, even when their bodies fail. And yet, they fight with cohesion, with ingenuity. With hope, it was an alien revelation. Jardik realized that the Detrian species, with all their precision and hierarchy, had no framework for humans. The very concept of improvisation, of turning catastrophe into weaponry, was foreign. And worse, humans' subtle faith. The quiet acts of persistence that hinted at something larger guiding them, confounded the cold calculations of logic. They are not soft, he whispered. They are relentless. Night deepened, and the city pulsed with activity. Fires still burned, drones still fell from the sky. But every fallen human was replaced by two more standing tall, adapting, creating, fighting. Nathan moved through the chaos, observing the patterns, anticipating the next alien maneuver. This is far from over, he said quietly. But every moment we survive, every invention we make, every act of defiance, we prove something fundamental. Humanity may be underestimated, mocked, called primitive, but we are relentless. We are imaginative. We are alive. A distant explosion lit the horizon. Nathan clenched his fists, not in fear, but in determination. They'll learn, he whispered. They'll see the truth. We are not soft. We are not primitive. And we will not stop ever. And as the alien fleet staggered under the weight of human improvisation, a quiet certainty spread through Nathan. The species they mocked had just begun to fight back. The real battle was only beginning. The city had become a labyrinth of human ingenuity and improvisation. Streets were lined with barricades, each constructed from the remnants of fallen buildings and civilian vehicles. A cacophony of alarms, shouts, and explosions filled the air. Yet there was rhythm in the chaos, an organized frenzy born of necessity. Nathan Cross moved through it with purpose, eyes scanning every motion, every sound. Every flicker of potential threat, he stopped at a collapsed overpass, where a group of engineers were rigging drones with electromagnetic amplifiers scavenged from streetlights. Sparks hissed and crackled as circuits were rewired on the fly. One young man, barely more than a boy, looked up at Nathan with wide eyes. "Sir, are you sure this will work?" Nathan knelt beside him, fingers brushing over the humming wires. "It has to," he said, voice low but steady. "Not because the physics guarantees it, but because humans make it work. You understand the pattern? You anticipate, improvise, and act even when it's impossible. That is our advantage. That is why they will never predict us." The boy nodded, swallowing hard, and returned to his work. Nathan watched, sensing something deeper than survival. It was resilience, yes, but also faith, not just in God, though that subtle presence lingered in every careful calculation, every near miracle of technology, but in humanity itself. High above, the alien observers struggled to comprehend. Prime Observer Jardik had convened a council aboard the flagship. The Detrian fleet, once pristine in formation, now staggered as their own ships malfunctioned under human interference. Jardik's segmented eyes scanned the chaotic network, his disbelief twisting his features. They improvise with debris, with half-functioning machines. And they anticipate failure before it happens, he said, his voice rough with frustration. Every loss teaches them. Every setback strengthens them. It is illogical, subordinate officer hissed. "Sir, their engineers are hacking our drones mid-flight. They are using our own weapons against us. How? How can a species survive this way?" "They survive because they are not machines," Jardik replied. "They feel. They adapt. They learn, and they endure. Even when mortally wounded, they refuse to yield. Even when isolated, they resist. Every human is a variable no algorithm can account for." On the ground, Nathan coordinated the citywide defenses. He had established a network, linking every improvised weapon, every hacked drone, every electrified barricade. The pulse of the city itself became a weapon, a living map of anticipation and reaction. Every action was calculated not by rigid rules, but by instinct, creativity, and the refusal to stop. A sudden alert flashed across Nathan's portable console. One of the alien frigates had adjusted its trajectory, aiming directly at the northern sector where civilians were concentrated. Nathan's chest tightened, not with fear, but with determination. "Prepare the decoy," he commanded. "Route everything through the network. Every light, every drone, every signal must deceive them. Make them see threats where there are none, and miss the real danger." The team worked in unison, a symphony of improvisation. Streetlights blinked erratically, drones swerved in unexpected patterns, and a series of small explosions created the illusion of defensive firepower far beyond human capability. The alien frigate miscalculated, crashing into an abandoned industrial complex. Flames and smoke erupted, silhouetting Nathan and his team in the eerie glow. Amid the chaos, Nathan felt a moment of quiet reflection. A stray dog, dust-covered and limping, passed by his boots. He reached down, letting the animal brush against his leg. Life persisted in the smallest forms as well. Humanity's ingenuity was impressive, but it was also fragile, tied intrinsically to empathy. To care for the weak and vulnerable. That empathy fueled their courage, giving humans an advantage even the most precise alien algorithms could not predict. Soft hum reached his ears, almost imperceptible. Not technology, not sound waves, but the quiet resonance of countless humans acting in unison. Thinking, surviving, creating. Nathan paused. "Not luck. Someone wanted us to live," he whispered, echoing a truth he had long felt but never articulated aloud. The aliens, meanwhile, faced internal discord. Jardik convened an emergency strategy council, tail coiling tightly around his chair. "We underestimated them," he admitted. "Their minds operate outside predictable patterns. They do not follow orders, they improvise, adapt, and learn. Their strength is not in technology, but in persistence and will. Every defeat strengthens them," a subordinate officer spoke, voice trembling. "Sir, they are not just surviving, they are weaponizing the impossible. Even our most sophisticated drones are being turned against us." "They're human," Jardik said, tone grim. "Inhumans. Endure." As night deepened, Nathan surveyed the streets. Fires still burned, but the glow illuminated something extraordinary. Civilians aiding engineers. Soldiers coordinating improvised traps, even children assisting in minor but crucial ways. The city itself had become a living, breathing entity of resistance. Every human heartbeat, every act of creativity reverberated through the network Nathan had constructed. A sudden tremor shook the ground. Nathan looked up to see an alien scout crashing near the plaza, immobilized by his team's countermeasures. Civilians cheered not out of joy but relief, a momentary validation of their efforts. Nathan allowed himself a faint smile. They had survived the first wave. They had endured. And in doing so, they had sent a message far beyond the city limits. Humans were not to be underestimated. He turned toward the horizon. Smoke and fire traced patterns across the skyline, and distant alien vessels reevaluated their approach. Nathan knew the real battle was only beginning. But for the first time, he felt the unmistakable thrill of possibility. Humanity was alive. Humanity was defiant. And humanity would not stop, not for machines, not for aliens, not even in the face of certain death, and somewhere in the darkness. The aliens began to grasp a terrifying truth. The species they called primitive was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Dawn broke like a promise over the shattered skyline. Smoke still curled from the ruins, and the acrid scent of burnt circuits hung in the air. But Nathan Cross moved through the city with renewed purpose. Each step was deliberate, calculated, yet instinctive, the movement of a man attuned to the chaos around him. Survival was no longer enough. He needed victory, and victory required escalation. The alien vessels had regrouped in orbit, massive shadows cutting across the morning sun. Their sensors probed, searching for weaknesses, analyzing the human defenses. But the humans, under Nathan's guidance, it created layers of unpredictability that even the most sophisticated alien algorithms could not pierce. Every street, every building, every alley had been weaponized. Each obstacle a puzzle the aliens were not equipped to solve. Nathan approached a makeshift control hub, assembled from 3 collapsed server rooms and a tangle of cables. Engineers huddled over consoles, hands moving with frantic precision, voices overlapping in a chorus of commands and calculations. "Status," Nathan demanded. One engineer looked up, eyes bright despite exhaustion. "Drones hacked and redirected. Streets are rigged with EMP triggers. The central network is live weak, can intercept alien communications in real time." Nathan nodded, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline. "Good. Now we push further. I want decoys at every entry point, traps in every corridor. Every alien pilot must hesitate, every ship must falter. And when they do, we strike." In the skies above, alien frigates descended toward the northern sector, drawn by the apparent vulnerability Nathan's network had created. But each move had been anticipated. Streets lit up with improvised defenses as pulses of electricity. Lapsing barricades, rigged vehicles, and the frigates faltered. Some collided with each other. Others were forced to retreat mid-descent. A young civilian operating a hacked drone cried out in triumph. Nathan glanced up, recognizing the brilliance in her hands. The instinctive precision that came not from formal training, but from sheer necessity. "Well done," he said, voice carrying over the chaos. "You see, improvisation is our weapon. Fear is our ally when guided by courage." The boy beside her grinned, pride shining through soot and ash. Nathan allowed himself a faint smile. Moments like these reminded him why humans endured, why they refused to break even when the odds were overwhelming. Meanwhile, Jardic's command deck was a storm of confusion and disbelief. The Detrian fleet had never faced an opponent capable of turning disorder into strategy. Each malfunction, each misfired drone, each improvised weapon revealed the human flaw the aliens had never anticipated. Unpredictability fueled by resilience and creativity. They adapt faster than our algorithms can track. His segmented eyes narrowing. Every action, every failure, strengthens them. Their survival instinct. It is exponential, subordinate, trembling, added, "Sir, even our central command systems have been compromised. The humans are using our own technology against us. This is not logical." Jardic's tail coiled tightly around his chair. Logic cannot measure defiance. Calculation cannot anticipate faith, ingenuity, or the will to endure. And that is what makes them dangerous. Nathan moved to the edge of a crumbling overpass, surveying the chaos below. Fires burned in the streets. Civilians aided engineers in fortifying defenses, and the sound of human determination resonated through the city. His mind calculated probabilities, mapped strategies, but also embraced the impossible. Every small victory, a rigged drone, a misdirected missile, a fallen alien vehicle was evidence of humanity's capacity to defy expectations. A sudden tremor shook the ground. Nathan's eyes flicked to the horizon where a massive cruiser had descended, aiming directly for the center of the city. Panic threatened to surge, but he suppressed it. "Prepare the traps," he commanded. Every street, every building, every alley must become a maze they cannot navigate. Lead them into confusion. Force them to fight our way. The alien cruiser entered the city's improvised defenses, and chaos erupted. EMP pulses disabled internal systems. Decoy signals misled targeting, and a cascade of explosions created barriers of fire and debris. Civilians, guided by Nathan's improvised network, assisted in the defense, their actions precise despite fear and exhaustion. The particularly damaged scout drone spiraled toward a cluster of civilians, and Nathan reacted instinctively, launching a small repurposed drone to intercept it. The two collided midair, sparks raining down, and the civilians cheered, eyes wide with awe. Nathan felt the weight of survival in that instant, not just his own, but the collective determination of every human in the city. They think destruction will break us, he muttered, but they are learning the wrong lesson. Humanity does not break. Humanity adapts. Above, Jardik watched as another cruiser faltered under human interference. They endure beyond reason, he said, voice trembling with both fascination and fear. Even mortally wounded, they fight. Even cornered, they resist. And they inspire each other. With every act of survival, they multiply their strength. It was more than tactics. It was instinct, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will. The aliens had relied on precision and order. Humans relied on improvisation, empathy, and courage. Each human action, each desperate measure, carried the weight of possibility. Nathan's eyes scanned the horizon, noting the interplay of fire, smoke, and improvised weaponry. A small girl had rerouted power to a rigged drone, her hands shaking, eyes bright with fear and determination. Nathan watched her, sensing the invisible presence that had guided countless small miracles today. The quiet hand that nudged, survival in the right direction. The subtle hint of divine order beneath chaos. Not luck, he whispered again, voice low but resolute. Someone wanted us to survive. The alien fleet began to retreat, staggered and confused, unable to anticipate the improvisation that had reshaped the battlefield. Nathan turned to his team, eyes blazing with determination. They'll regroup, he said. They always do. But now they know we will not yield. We will adapt. And when they return, every street, every building, every improvised weapon will be waiting. Civilians emerged from the rubble, exhausted but alive, their faces reflecting a mixture of fear, pride, and awe. Nathan allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had survived another wave not through superior technology, but through courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit that defined them. And somewhere in the alien fleet, Jardik recorded a single, undeniable truth. Humans were not primitive. They were relentless, unpredictable, and terrifying in their capacity to endure. And as the fires of the city flickered under the dawn, Nathan Cross knew that humanity had not just survived, they had sent a message across the stars. Never underestimate what the primitive can create when driven by courage and will. The city had become a theater of improvisation, a living weapon of human ingenuity. Nathan Cross moved through the streets like a conductor of chaos, each motion measured, each command deliberate. The humans around him were no longer merely surviving, they were orchestrating resistance with a precision that seemed impossible. For a species labeled primitive, explosions punctuated the morning air as rigged vehicles and repurposed drones executed their programmed misdirections. Civilians coordinated with soldiers, young and old alike, improvising barriers, distractions, and traps. Nathan paused to admire a group of teenagers who had converted a network of water towers into a makeshift EMP grid. Sparks danced along the piping, illuminating their determined faces. "This is it," Nathan murmured, scanning the horizon where alien frigates began descending in staggered formations. "We don't just survive. We fight on our terms." He moved to a makeshift command center built from scavenged shipping containers. Engineers hunched over jury-rigged computers, their fingers moving faster than thought, feeding false coordinates into alien systems. Nathan watched, absorbing the rhythm of improvisation, feeling the invisible presence that seemed to guide them. He whispered quietly, "Not luck. Someone wants us to survive." Above, Prime Observer Jardik's frustration boiled into something dangerous. The Detrian fleet had never faced an opponent that could manipulate chaos into an offensive weapon. Each misfired missile, each hacked drone, each improvised explosion demonstrated a level of creativity and adaptability the aliens could not anticipate. "They are not just surviving," Jardik hissed, tail coiling tightly around the console. "They are weaponizing possibility itself. Every setback teaches them. Every failure strengthens them." "How? How can a species endure this way?" A junior officer, trembling, stammered, "Sir, they're casualties. They keep fighting. Even mortally wounded, they resist. Even isolated, they retaliate. They endure because they are human, Jardik snapped. Because their will is stronger than our calculations. Because their ingenuity is fueled by something beyond logic. Nathan surveyed the battlefield. Alien frigates descended, their advanced targeting systems overridden by the humans' improvisations. A makeshift decoy, a combination of scavenged drones and smoke generators, diverted one massive cruiser directly into a narrow corridor where gravity generators had been manipulated. The ship faltered, crashed into the buildings lining the street, and a wave of debris created a cascading effect that blocked the rest of the fleet from advancing. A young engineer looked up at Nathan, face streaked with soot and sweat. "Sir, it's working." Where Nathan cut him off with a small smile. "We're not winning yet. We're surviving, and survival is just the beginning. Every action they take, every mistake they make, is a lesson, and we learn faster than they can anticipate." Amid the chaos, Nathan noticed a small boy trapped beneath a fallen beam. Without hesitation, he sprinted across the rubble, ignoring falling debris and the faint hum of approaching drones. He lifted the beam with a hydraulic jack cobbled together from a generator and old construction equipment. The boy scrambled free, eyes wide with terror and awe. "Go," Nathan urged as a hacked drone zipped past, scattering debris to mask their escape. The boy ran, clutching a makeshift slingshot he had used to fend off a scout drone. Nathan stood, chest heaving, and observed. This was humanity, defiant, courageous, and creative even when survival seemed impossible. Tsar. Tech watched in disbelief as yet another frigate was incapacitated by improvised explosives detonated in sequence, across several city blocks. "Impossible," he whispered. "They are adapting faster than our simulations can predict. Every loss, every failure, strengthens them, and they inspire each other." "How? How can this be?" One officer dared to answer. "Sir, they are learning from death. Even when a soldier falls, another rises, armed with knowledge and determination. They fight beyond mortality." Jardik's eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps we misjudge them. Perhaps humans are not primitive at all. Perhaps they are something we cannot control." Back on the ground, Nathan rallied his team for a final offensive maneuver. They had set up an array of hacked drones, EMP charges, and repurposed vehicles to strike at the remaining alien frigates. Timing was crucial. One misstep, one miscalculation, and the city could be lost. "Every detail matters," Nathan reminded them. "Every improvisation, every calculated risk, it's all connected. We are the unpredictable variable, and today, that is our weapon." As the signal was sent, drones took flight, triggering false targets, colliding with alien sensors, guiding frigates into traps. EMP pulses disabled engines mid-flight, and the largest cruiser began to spin uncontrollably, its hull groaning under the strain of improvisational sabotage. Nathan watched, a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. As humanity's ingenuity reshaped the battlefield, the alien fleet faltered. Jardik's officers reported cascading failures across every system. Their improvisation, it is genius, one whispered. They turn chaos into strategy, destruction into advantage. Every failure strengthens them. "They are human," Jardik said, voice low, almost reverent. "And humans endure." Nathan felt the weight of the moment. The city was scarred, the streets twisted, the air thick with smoke and ash. But humans were alive, defiant, and stronger for it. Civilians, soldiers, and engineers alike had become instruments of survival, each improvisation a testament to the unyielding spirit of their species. He allowed himself a quiet smile, whispering once more, "Not luck. Someone wanted us to survive." And as the alien fleet limped into retreat, battered and bewildered, Nathan Cross knew that humanity had done more than defend a city. They had shown the universe that creativity, courage, and faith could weaponize the impossible. The alien fleet had retreated, but Nathan knew better than to believe the fight was over. Humanity's survival had been a victory. Yes, but survival alone would not end the war. The humans needed to turn defense into offense, chaos into decisive action, and they would do it with the one advantage no alien calculation could ever predict: creativity. Driven by desperation and courage, Nathan moved through the city's command hub. Now, a sprawling network of jury-rigged consoles, scavenged drones, and improvised sensors. Engineers tapped at keyboards, connected circuits, and rerouted power through lines that were never meant to carry such loads. Each improvisation carried risk. One misstep could ignite a chain reaction, but risk was part of the calculus. Humans thrived in it. Status, Nathan demanded. Scanning the holographic projections of alien positions, a young engineer pointed to a series of satellite feeds. "They're regrouping, trying to repair the frigates, sir. But our network has hacked communications. Every repair crew, every supply drone, every command vessel is feeding us data in real time. We know their every move." Nathan allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Good. Then it's time we stop reacting. It's time we take the fight to them." Beyond the atmosphere, Jardik observed the damage reports with mounting alarm. Alien vessels were not just retreating, they were being systematically disabled by the humans' improvised tactics. "They adapt faster than expected," Jardik said, tail coiling tensely. "Every failure they suffer becomes a new strategy. Their ingenuity, it is unparalleled. Even their wounded inspire others to action." How? How can a species survive and strike so effectively without advanced technology? A junior officer dared to speak. "Sir, their improvisation borders on divine luck. Even when isolated, humans perform feats that defy prediction. Art. Divine or not, it is a flaw in our understanding. They are relentless, unpredictable, and capable of improvisation beyond any known species. They are dangerous." Nathan's team began preparing for the first offensive strike beyond the city limits. Using hijacked alien drones, repurposed vehicles, and improvised weapons, they aimed to disable the alien fleet's repair depots, supply chains, and communications. It was audacious. It's almost reckless. But Nathan trusted the human instinct for improvisation. A group of civilians had joined in. Rigging small drones with explosive charges and feedback loops, Nathan observed a young man no older than 17 carefully wiring a drone with trembling hands. "Sir, what if I fail?" Nathan crouched beside him, placing a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "Then we try again. Every failure teaches you something new. Every mistake becomes a tool. Humans survive not by perfection, but by willpower, creativity, and courage. Trust yourself." The boy nodded, swallowing fear, and released the drone into the sky. It zipped past rigged decoys, sending false signals to the alien vessels while planting a small charge near a repair hub. Nathan's eyes followed its path, heart pounding, not with fear, but anticipation. Jardika's sensors picked up the chaos. Alien repair drones were being misdirected, supply convoys disrupted, and communication lines overloaded. Their actions. "They are coordinated, but not by logic alone," Jardik said, tone tight with disbelief. "They anticipate our counters before they occur. Every maneuver they make is inspired. They are alive in a way our species cannot comprehend." Subordinate whispered, voice trembling. "Sir, perhaps it is more than instinct. Perhaps they are guided by something." Unseen, Jardik did not answer. He only stared at the reports, understanding for the first time that the human strength was not in numbers or technology, it was in resilience, ingenuity, and an almost ineffable will to survive, back on Earth. Nathan directed a series of coordinated strikes. Small drones detonated near alien repair depots. EMP pulses disabled critical systems, and rigged vehicles created unpredictable hazards. Alien crews were forced to respond to phantom threats. Every action anticipated and countered by humans improvising in real time. Amid the chaos, Nathan spotted a young child using a small jury-rigged drone to deliver messages. Between teams stranded in different parts of the city, the child's hands shook, but the drone reached its destination without fail. Nathan's heart clenched not from fear, but awe. Humanity thrived in these impossible moments, guided by courage, empathy, and something quietly unseen, a subtle divine presence that threaded through each small miracle. The alien fleet faltered. Jardic's frustration escalated into panic. They are too unpredictable. Their improvisation turns our strength into weakness. They do not follow order. They do not fear death, and every setback empowers them further. How can a species endure so much and still strike with precision? A subordinate dared to voice the unspoken thought. Sir, perhaps they are chosen to survive. Jardic's segmented eyes narrowed. Chosen or not, humans endure. And endurance, when combined with ingenuity, is more dangerous than any weapon we possess. Nathan's pulse quickened as the last of the alien repair hubs exploded, sending cascading sparks and debris across the horizon. Civilians cheered. Soldiers who had barely survived the initial invasion grinned, and engineers breathed deep, exhausted but unbroken. Humanity had struck not through overwhelming force, but through improvisation, courage, and relentless willpower. Nathan paused, looking up at the sky where alien ships lingered, battered and uncertain. They think they can intimidate us with size and technology, he muttered. But they do not understand what it means to be human. We endure. We adapt. We create and we strike when least expected. He turned back to the city, watching the scattered fires flicker against the morning light. Each act of survival, each improvisation, each moment of courage had a pattern, a rhythm, a resonance that spoke of something larger, subtle intelligence that guided them. Not luck, he whispered, voice low but steady. Someone wants us to live. And as the alien fleet wavered in the skies above, Nathan knew humanity had shifted from defense to offense. The species they had mocked was no longer merely surviving, it was defining the battlefield, guided by courage, ingenuity. In the quiet hand of Providence, the morning sun cast long shadows over a city still, smoldering from the previous night's chaos. The streets were scarred, buildings splintered, and smoke drifted like a restless spirit, yet the human defenders moved with purpose, their improvisations sharper, their resolve stronger. Nathan Cross stood atop a crumbling overpass, surveying the battlefield. This was no longer about survival. This was humanity taking the fight to the invaders. Prepare the drones, he commanded. Every hijacked unit, every rigged vehicle, every improvised weapon, we strike together. Timing is everything. We disrupt their repairs, cut off their reinforcements, and force them to retreat further. Engineers and soldiers moved like a single organism flowing through the streets, setting traps, activating pulse arrays, and rerouting energy. A young engineer, barely 17, adjusted a drone's targeting system. Sparks danced across her hands, yet her eyes were steady, focused. Nathan approached her. You're nervous, he said quietly. I am, she admitted. But I know we can do this. Somehow. Nathan nodded. Good. That somehow is humanity. It's courage, creativity, and will. Trust it. Above the city, the alien fleet faltered. Jardic observed the chaos with mounting disbelief. Frigates spun helplessly as EMP pulses disabled engines mid-flight. Drones collided with one another, and improvised explosive devices detonated with unnerving precision. The humans were no longer reacting. They were dictating the battlefield. They anticipate every counter, Jardic hissed. Every move we make, every repair we attempt, they have already accounted for. How? How is this possible? A subordinate, trembling, ventured an answer. Sir, their improvisation is beyond logic. Even mortally wounded soldiers. They continue to fight, to resist, to adapt. Perhaps they are guided by something unseen. Jardic froze. The words echoed the unsettling pattern he had begun to sense. Humans were not just surviving, they were almost impossibly resilient. Their actions threaded with subtle, inexplicable synchronicity. On the ground, Nathan coordinated the first major strike beyond the city. Hijacked alien drones formed a false formation, drawing enemy frigates into a narrow canyon where makeshift gravity traps and EMP nets waited. Civilian volunteers carried rigged supply crates into ambush positions, while soldiers synchronized detonations across multiple points. Nathan's pulse quickened. Every variable had been accounted for, yet improvisation remained the key. He glanced at a small group of children assisting with signaling simple tasks, yet vital. One boy's hand shook as he activated a drone release, and it veered perfectly into the canyon, triggering a chain reaction that sent an alien frigate tumbling into the rocks. Nathan exhaled sharply, pride and awe mingling. Humanity thrived even in the smallest forms. Jardic's fleet faltered further. Reports flooded in. Damaged ships, disrupted communications, confused pilots. Every failed attack reinforced human confidence, and the aliens' own technology now turned against them. They are unpredictable, Jardic admitted, voice tight with disbelief. Every failure we inflict strengthens them. They do not fear death. They do not surrender. Every loss fuels their ingenuity. A junior officer ventured a dangerous thought. Sir, perhaps it is more than willpower. Perhaps. Humans are guided by something beyond comprehension. Jardic's segmented eyes narrowed. Perhaps, but regardless, humans endure. And endurance is more dangerous than our weapons. Nathan moved swiftly across the city, observing the impact of their offensive. Alien repair teams had been neutralized, supply lines severed, and strategic positions overrun. Civilians and soldiers alike were improvising at every step, turning ordinary materials into lethal tools. A makeshift catapult launched a salvaged drone into a hovering frigate, disabling its sensors. Another team used electrical wiring to create an impromptu railgun, sending debris streaking through the air toward enemy ships. Even in exhaustion, humanity's ingenuity had no bounds. Nathan paused to watch a group of engineers recover a fallen drone from beneath rubble, their hands working in perfect synchrony, guided by instinct, courage, and perhaps something unseen, a quiet thread of providence nudging them past disaster. The alien fleet's desperation grew. Jardic realized their losses were compounded not by superior strategy, but by human unpredictability, empathy, and relentless will. They are not machines, he hissed. They do not calculate. They feel, they adapt, they endure. And every act inspires others. How can a species fight beyond reason? A subordinate spoke, voice trembling. Sir, their resilience. It is almost divine. Even in the face of certain death, they act with purpose. They are chosen to endure. Jardic did not respond, only stared at the flickering feed of failing frigates, each destroyed or disabled by the humans' improvisation and courage. Nathan's eyes swept across the battlefield. Fires burned in distant streets, explosions erupted in cascading sequences, yet humanity pressed forward. They were improvising with what remained: damaged drones, scavenged vehicles, repurposed electronics. Every act of creation defied expectation, and every narrow survival added another layer of ingenuity to the offensive. A young boy, no more than 10, emerged from rubble holding a small jury-rigged drone. Nathan watched him release it, directing it toward a disabled frigate. The drone zipped through the smoke, triggering a chain reaction that disabled the ship's engines. The boy's eyes were wide with terror and exhilaration. Nathan approached and placed a hand on his shoulder. Do you see? Nathan said softly. This is not luck. This is you. This is every human who refuses to give up, who finds a way even when all seems lost. Not luck. Someone wanted us to live. The alien fleet, battered and bewildered, began to retreat, staggering under the weight of human improvisation and resilience. Jardic's mind raced with disbelief. They endure beyond logic. They fight beyond death. They are terrifying. Nathan stood atop a smoking overpass, watching the retreat. Humanity had not merely survived. They had won a decisive victory in this phase of the battle, not through superior weapons, but through creativity, courage, empathy, and will. He lowered his eyes, watching the civilians and soldiers alike. Each act of survival, each improvisation, each courageous risk had a rhythm, a resonance, subtle guidance beyond their understanding. And somewhere deep in his heart, Nathan felt it, the quiet hand of providence threading through chaos, nudging humanity toward triumph. And as the alien ships vanished into the horizon, battered and confused, Nathan Cross knew that humanity had proven something undeniable. The species they mocked was not only alive, they were unstoppable when guided by courage, ingenuity, and the quiet hand of the divine. The horizon burned with the remnants of alien fire, twisted metal, and smoke that curled like restless spirits. Nathan Cross stood on the fractured overpass, chest heaving, eyes scanning the city and the skies beyond. Humanity had endured wave after wave of assault. It turned chaos into strategy, and now they prepared for the final confrontation. The aliens had retreated, yes, but their reckoning was far from over. Nathan gathered his team in the makeshift command hub. The hub buzzing with energy from rerouted circuits and jury-rigged sensors. Engineers, soldiers, and civilians worked in concert, their hands steady, even as their bodies ached. The humans were no longer merely defending, they were the authors of the battlefield, dictating terms through ingenuity, courage, and sheer willpower. "Final wave is incoming," Nathan announced. "We've disrupted their fleet, damaged their communications, and forced them into disarray. But they'll regroup. They'll try to overwhelm us in one desperate strike. That is when we show them the true strength of humanity." A young engineer, wiping soot from her face, looked at him. "Sir, how do we beat them? They're bigger, faster, stronger." Nathan crouched beside her. "Strength is not only measured by size or speed, it's in willpower, ingenuity, and the refusal to quit. We fight not just with weapons, but with creativity, courage, and the knowledge that we are never alone in this. Remember, every act matters. Every risk counts. We endure, we adapt, and we overcome." Above the planet, the alien fleet coalesced for their final assault. Jardic tail coiled tightly around his command chair, observed the damage with growing alarm. Their ships were crippled, systems compromised by human improvisation, and morale among alien crews was fraying. "They anticipate, they adapt, they improvise," Jardic hissed. "Every strategy we implement, they've already accounted for." How is this species so resilient?" The subordinate ventured carefully, voice trembling. "Sir, they are beyond prediction. Perhaps guided by something unseen. Perhaps they are chosen to endure." Jardic's segmented eyes narrowed. "Chosen or not, humans endure. And endurance combined with ingenuity is a weapon beyond our understanding." On the ground, Nathan coordinated the last line of defense. Alien frigates descended toward the city, but each route had been rigged with traps, EMP pulses, and hijacked drones ready to disrupt their formation. Civilians and soldiers worked side by side, improvising with what little remained. Even children played a role, guiding small drones or signaling teams through debilitated streets. The first alien wave struck, and chaos erupted. EMP pulses disabled engines mid-flight, drones collided with frigates, improvised explosives detonated with unerring timing. Mortally wounded humans continued to fight, holding barricades and operating weapons long past the point where they should have succumbed. Their courage, ingenuity, and refusal to yield created a rhythm of resistance the aliens could not comprehend. Nathan moved swiftly through the battlefield, directing attacks, adjusting improvisations, and rescuing trapped civilians. He lifted a fallen woman from debris, shoving her behind cover as a hacked drone collided with an alien scout. "Go!" he shouted. "Keep moving! Every second counts!" Jardic watched in disbelief as yet another alien frigate faltered under human sabotage. "They fight beyond reason," he muttered. "Even mortally wounded, they inspire others. Every act strengthens them. Every failure empowers them." "How can a species endure like this?" Subordinate whispered, voice trembling. "Sir, perhaps it is divine guidance. Even in death, they act with purpose. Perhaps someone unseen ensures their survival." Jardic recoiled slightly. "Divine or not, humans endure. And endurance is lethal." Nathan directed the final offensive. Hijacked drones and EMP pulses, disabled alien reinforcements, and a sequence of improvised explosives toppled their central command hub in orbit, sending debris cascading toward remaining ships. Alien pilots scrambled, their systems failing in ways no algorithm could anticipate. Humans had turned impossible odds into advantage. Improvising at every turn, he watched a young boy release a drone carrying a feedback pulse, targeting a critical alien frigate. The device collided perfectly, disabling the ship's engines. Nathan allowed himself a faint smile. Humanity's ingenuity was not just survival, it was precision, courage, and defiance combined. The aliens, beaten, staggered, and desperate, realized the truth. The species they had mocked as primitive was unbreakable, it's unpredictable, and terrifying in their capacity to endure. Jardika's voice, tight with disbelief and awe, echoed across the fleet. Humans, they are not primitive. They fight beyond death, beyond logic, and beyond expectation. They endure. And that endurance is unstoppable. Nathan stood atop a ruined overpass, watching the last of the alien ships retreat. Humanity had survived, and in doing so had proven the unassailable strength of creativity, courage, and collective will. The city was scarred, but alive. Civilians, engineers, and soldiers alike were battered, but unbroken. Nathan exhaled, voice quiet but resolute. Not luck, someone wanted us to live. He glanced at the horizon where alien ships limped away, diminished and humiliated. Humanity had not only survived, they had won, through ingenuity, courage, and the subtle guidance that had threaded every near-impossible survival, every improvised strike, and every act of defiance. The streets were silent now, save for the hum of repurposed drones and the distant crackle of fire. Nathan looked around at his team, their faces streaked with soot and sweat, their eyes reflecting exhaustion, awe, and relief. Humanity had endured. The impossible turned chaos into victory and redefined the meaning of strength. In the quiet, Nathan sensed the subtle hand of something greater, a guiding presence threading through the moments of desperation and ingenuity. Not a voice, not a form, but an intelligence, a balance. A quiet reminder that courage and faith could shape outcomes beyond comprehension. And as he looked to the sky, he whispered, almost to himself, "We endured, we adapted, we created, and we prevailed. Not by luck, by will, ingenuity, and something greater guiding our steps."